Hello and welcome back to another day in the arena. It's me, it's CGB, and today in the arena, I'm playing Esper Control. Mainly because I've got to rule it out. When there is a new format, and we're going to be playing Standard 2020, probably for a while on the channel, so in a way it's like rotation already happened, goodbye Dominaria cards and such. But I need to know if Esper can still be good. I always need to know if Esper can still be good. It's kind of my heart's desire, even if I don't love this style of Esper as much. I miss counter spells. I know some of you hate them, but I do miss them. So the biggest changes coming to Esper is the loss of the Hero of Dominaria. Teferi, gone. Look, it doesn't even show up. Doesn't even show up. I'm not even allowed to look at the card in the editor right now with the filters on. That's okay. Anyway, the Hero Dominaria is gone, rotated out. Many of you are saying good riddance. But can little brudda run the show? Can younger Teferi, but older, but younger, but it's a time age, so who knows, continue to dominate the format with the help of Narset, the Parter of Veils, another very restrictive card that just forced Magic to be played in quite honestly weird, annoying ways. Well, I think that the biggest blow to this deck, besides losing the Hero of Dominaria, is the blow to the mana base. Look at the lands we have to play now. No more Drowned Catacomb, no more Isolated Chapel. We didn't know how good we had it. If you just got into the arena, you don't always get lands that count as an island and a swamp, and lands that enter the battlefield untapped if you control an island and a swamp as dual lands together. That's pretty nutty. Now, on the bright side, for some of you, the mana bases went down in price a little bit. Temple lands, Scry lands are still very good, and you should craft them at some point, but they're not as significantly better than, say, a Dismal Backwater or a Guildgate as a Shockland or a Checkland was. So your mana bases, they get a little more budgety, and you don't lose as many percentage points against the field as you used to. That's good for the budget players. That's bad in general for control mages. Bad in general for Esper and Grixis and other such decks. I'm still going to try them because the power level of the cards when you can combine guilds like Dimir, Azorius, and Orzhov is off the charts, but it's going to be harder to cast our spells. On the bright side, the life lands do counterbalance the amount of times you'll have to pay life because you're going to be shock landing a lot more since so many of your lands enter the battlefield tapped. Also, to make up for the fact that my lands enter the battlefield tapped, we have to shift our mana base a little, or our removal suite a little bit. I'm playing 4 Disfigures because now I'm actually planning to play a tap land on turn 1, like Temple of Silence, and a tap land on turn 2, like Dismal Backwater or a shock land I don't want to shock for. And I need to remove something so I don't fall too far behind on the board. Another key card that is gone from this archetype is Vraska's Contempt. Vraska's Contempt was actually doing a pretty good job of making sure that we could remove a Planeswalker before it ultimated, and now that is gone. So until we get more Planeswalker removal, I've gone up to 3 copies of the Elder Spell. I've played against so many control decks, and I've played against so many decks running a good amount of Planeswalkers, even like Gruul, running Vivian, Nissa, and Domri, that I'm up to 3 copies of the Elder Spell to keep the walkers from completely running wild on me. In the Guilds of Ravnica format, War of the Spark and all its Planeswalkers seem to loom large as some of the strongest things that you can be doing, and Elder Spell has to counteract those for the time being. That's also why I'm running Oath of Kaya. Oath of Kaya can pick off those Planeswalkers, of course, and our new ultimate target is, our new end game is to set up Liliana Dreadhorde General, and then use Elder Spell to ultimate Liliana. Now, Liliana's Triumph is hanging out. You may not have seen much of this card. I could be running something like a Tyrant Scorn, but I really like Liliana's Triumph, and there are 2 cards that really push me in this direction. One is God's Willing. God's Willing, Feather decks, and other cheap aggro decks keeps coming up, and it does keep me from killing the opponent's stuff. That's what God's Willing does. Counters your spot removal, but it doesn't counter Liliana's Triumph, so you can still take out a Feather, you can still take out something like a Ceratops if you can catch it, but the other card that makes me run Liliana's Triumph a lot right now is this card. Paradise Druid. This little elf is now the go-to mana critter for so many decks, and the fact that it can come down on turn 2 and you can't do anything about it with any other cards in your deck is a big problem. It lets the opponent get that mana advantage the next turn, and when they get ahead of you, it can be very hard to keep up. Ceratops ahead of curve can be a real pain. If you're too far away from your Kaya's Wrath, bad things happen. But Liliana's Triumph can go head to head with Paradise Druid and keep the opponent from getting that boost in mana. So that's why I like Liliana's Triumph right now, and I do use it with Liliana Dreadhorde General. Against a control deck, it's not a completely dead card, because you can make your opponent discard a card when you can combine it with the Dreadhorde General. It comes up. You can even use it in the draw step so to get the card that they drew off the top in a top deck war. So this is the Esper list I'm going to try out. Let me know if you like it. Let me know what you are running in your Esper list. Let me know your opinions on it. Please try to be constructive aside from saying that you hate Esper control. I know people hate Esper control. You're welcome to share that in the comments. I won't tell you not to. But you could be constructive and also lend some ideas for the deck or how to fight against it, because I'm sure you're not alone, and I'm sure there are people watching that want ideas for how to fight Esper as well. Right now, I think that the aggro decks that are very low to the ground are good against Esper, and we'll get into those probably in more videos. I think I've talked more than enough about this. I could talk Esper all day. Let's show some games. Oh yeah, those are the beautiful openings we would expect with a mana base like this. But you see why Disfigure's in the deck. We'll have removal starting on turn 2. We'll also have it on turn 3. If our opponent's on a creature deck, it might be very hard for them to get through this. So here we go. Here we go. Let's scry it up. Another removal spell. You know, the weird thing is we could end up against Feather. We could end up against some deck where this is very relevant. But considering that I have all removal spells already, I'm going to bottom the card for now. And there's Sacred Foundry. Did I call my shot? In the dark. Alright, gain me a life. Say go. All removal all the time. Burning Prophet looks like a Feather deck. Darn it. Give me back my Triumph. Let's pay the 2 life and Oath of Kaya that away. It is too bad to let down the Disfigure shields. They're very good against certain cards from the deck. Mainly 10th District Legionnaire, which has haste, so it gets to punch us in the face once. And scry to the top. No 10th District Legionnaire here, and just a lot of little life lands. They balance out the shocks, okay? Oh man, it feels so bad to play with those now, though. Alright. Do we go for the double Disfigure to get the God's Willing out of our opponent's hand? It wouldn't be out of their hand. They would get it back. Plus, any pump spell blows it out, so better to use a Kaya's Wrath. Just don't let Feather get going. Don't let this nonsense happen. Defiant Strike to draw a card. And let's hope it's not double Feather. If it is, we need some Liliana's Triumph and we need land for the Dreadhorde General. We definitely have the tools in our deck to compete. We just don't have the tools in our hand right this minute. Oh, if you say Moot, sprint me. Nope. So I would love to Disfigure and then play Narset. We do have to make sure it resolves. If the opponent has God's Willing, we have to respond with another Disfigure. We could also lead with the Oath of Kaya and then Disfigure, but I really want the Oath of Kaya to hit. Let's go for the Disfigure now. And there's the God's Willing, and in response, moment of truth, is it double God's Willing? Yeah, that's rough. That is not where you want to live your life, my friends. Alright, well, we got 2 God's Willings out of the way. The Krenko will leave behind some tokens. The Defiant Strike, of course, makes Krenko even stronger. Battlefield Promotion, even stronger. So this is +1/+1 counter, first strike, and you gain 2 life. Little tech against red, perhaps. The opponent just moving in on this Krenko. They want max tokens. Who can blame them? Tokens are sweet. We need an untapped land. We don't draw it. The Oath of Kaya is now out of range, so I guess Teferi, try to help me hit a land drop here, buddy. The Feather is outlanding me. That's very annoying. There we go. Having Enter the God Eternals here can make a big difference. Arcanist. Nasty. We'll get a little drain from the Oath of Kaya at least. Drawing a Wrath would be so nice. Let's see if the opponent replays Krenko or not. They feel committed enough to the board. Well, that's a good draw. Let's take out their hand and then Oath of Kaya the Arcanist. No instant speed anything, just another land. The opponent flooded pretty hard. Let's put the Citadel away. Citadel will have to come out later. No Arcanist, please. We certainly don't need to have the opponent getting more value. And we're left with a horde of 1/1s to clean up because of the one turn the opponent got with the Krenko. Let's see how well they can leverage it. If they can go the distance with these little guys. 15 life. Off the top, it's a land. That could be a Liliana, but I don't want to pay the life for it. I think that Enter the God Eternals is still right. If the opponent spiked another God's Willing, of course this is bad, but I think we try it. Also, we could mill ourselves or mill the opponent. With this deck, I don't get a lot of value out of my graveyard, but the opponent does get value out of their graveyard with Dreadhorde Arcanist, so I am going to mill myself. And here's my 4/4 zombie boy to battle these tokens. And the opponent scoops it. Maybe a tilt from drawing too many land. Very scary turn sequence there, but we got through it. Quick word for our sponsor, Cool Stuff Inc. Please check out coolstuffinc.com for Magic cards, accessories, board games, and they live up to the name, Cool Stuff. Promo code CGB5 for 5% off your order. Yeah, it's a good hand against just about everybody, so let's roll with it. Our opponent with those Narset sleeves, you already know. Oh, maybe it's not control? Maybe not. I swear, Narset sleeves are usually control, but, you know, I get it wrong. I got bias in my life. Let's get a blue source down, that way next turn we can swamp to Disfigure or we can Thought Erasure. Jeskai, sure. Sure. Here we go now. Is that a keep on top? I wonder if that means I should let my opponent draw it so I can Thought Erase it. Although I do not want to give up next turns to Fairy play. There is something to be said for not always Thought Erasing on turn 2 when you can, but not this time. So we're looking at Teferi, but it doesn't come out next turn unless the opponent kept an untapped land on top, and I have an Elder spell for it anyway. The Kasmina is actually really annoying. Paying extra for your Elder spell is pretty rough. But I do feel like just throwing off the curve and taking the Time Raveler is probably good. Or I could just take the Sarkhan so the opponent can't swing over and mess with me and let them build up their board otherwise. Actually, I like that a lot. So, Sarkhan, you're out. Yeah, we need land. I would like another blue, but I'll settle for a Scry land. 3 Elder spells is going to make this matchup a tough one for the opponent, but we still have to play sharp. It's a very risky matchup. When you let the opponent have a good board state and then they Sarkhan you, it's pretty painful. So, gonna get a Teferi down. For one thing, I don't like all these clicks that the opponent has to do. The one good thing Teferi's here for. I'm not going to minus to draw a card yet. My opponent holds a shock. We'll try to avoid that if we can. Also, Teferi's minus ability can target the 2/2. Kasmina doesn't affect abilities that target the creatures. It's only spells, so we're going to need more mana to cast our Elder spell, but at least I can fend off these little token buggers.
Don't worry, I got this.
And this does, of course, expose Teferi to the shock. We've got to accept that. It's just something that's going to happen. But we'll get Narset down here, which is a real painful thing for Kasmina. If this ability activates, it will just read discard a card, which is really funny.
trick for this.
All right. Thought Erasure, Oath of Kaya, Narset, Liliana. This is a pretty tough call. Thinking about next turn, I can't really Elder Spell with the Kasmina without paying for mana, so I don't think I get the Thought Erasure off. This is a tough one. It's probably just best to take another Narset, because Narset is more and more and more and more resources and so obnoxious for the opponent to deal with that making sure that you always have a Narset going can just really paralyze this deck.
We will meet again.
There's the shock. Steam Vent's tapped. So the opponent had a 5-mana play available, didn't take it, so they don't have a Sarkhan, I don't think, or else they would have Kasmina attacked something. Opponent with their own Teferi here.
Oh, I've done the hero thing before.
Have you now? Enter the God Eternals off the top. Let's start with Narset, see what we can find.
An open mind.
That's a really awkward card to expose to the opponent. I think what I'll do, like, I want this. Don't get me wrong. Putting it on the bottom doesn't feel good, but I'm happy to take it later. I think that this turn we're going to spend on the Elder Spell. Just clean this board up and leave the opponent facing a big Narset. We have to pay 2 extra because of Kasmina, but we don't have to pay 2 per target.
This is hardly my
I
worst
have learned
defeat.
much.
Alright, recharge our Narset. And I'll take the land on top so that we're up to 6. And the opponent just can't. Just no. No more. Make the Narset stop. My sleeves turned against me. Let's take a spoiler break to talk about Murderous Rider. Murderous Rider is 1 black zombie knight rare 2/3 lifelink. When Murderous Rider dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. But the card has an adventure mode, which is Swift End, 1 black instant adventure. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, you lose 2 life. The way that adventure works is when you play the spell side, Swift End, then you exile the card and you may cast the card out of exile as the creature. So, obvious play pattern, kill something, then cast the creature side later. Wizards is trying really hard to get my control deck to play a creature, and they will succeed. This is going right into Esper control and will fill basically the role that Elder Spell. We're pretty overloaded on Elder Spell, let's be real. And we need more ways to deal with these pesky planeswalkers that just dominate this format. Murderous Rider is an excellent way to do it. Picking off planeswalkers at instant speed, pretty big deal, although instant speed doesn't matter as much against a fairy. You do have to pay 2 life, which hurts, but you can turn around and cast this life-linking 2/3. The fact that you can also target a creature is a big deal. We've been missing Hero's Downfall. It was a rare, awesome removal spell from Theros that had a huge impact on the format back then, and there weren't nearly as many planeswalkers back then, although there were some very powerful ones like Elspeth. But with so many planeswalkers in this format, this is what we needed. A way to have a creature, have a removal spell, and have a planeswalker removal spell all in one awesome flexible card. The fact that the rider dies, you put it on the bottom of its owner's library, keeps like weird recursive engines. If you could get this back by returning a creature to hand, like with some kind of thing that got it out of the graveyard, then cast the adventure, then cast the creature, and so forth, the loop would be painful. But as it is, if you can bounce Murderous Rider with, I don't know, does anybody know a card that bounces a creature right now? Does it start with Teferi? Then you can use the Adventure Zone again. And obviously, the more cards they print, the better Teferi gets. That's pretty frustrating. But at least you can use this to kill other Teferis out of any deck that uses black. This card is going to be amazing. Put me down for 4. Just pencil me in for 4 rare wild cards gone from my collection. Add Murderous Rider. Super excited about it. All right, Erasure, Disfigure, Elder, Kaya, all the bases covered. All the creatures dead, all the planies dead. A little bit of life gained. Forest Go, love it. Do I tune to Thought Erasure? Is that really a question? Don't pick the Ferox, don't pick the Ferox, don't pick the Ferox, don't pick the Ferox. A very big reason that I play Liliana's Triumph in the deck is Paradise Druid. This card is a really obnoxious way that green decks are getting ahead now that they couldn't really do before. So I'm taking that card, keeping the Narset. We have a Disfigure for a Growth Chamber Guardian. So we're probably not going to play the Narset next turn. We're going to hold up the Disfigure. So if that's the play, let's go ahead and we could play this tapped so we don't have to pay life for it, but let's play our Scryland since we know it has to be tapped. And that's enough scrying for now, I think. Let's go for better. And Disfigure now so we don't have to play this will he, won't he game and take damage. Keep the board clear. Hopefully make Narset good. Our opponent finds Knight of the Ebon Legion, which is an interesting one. The opponent may use it to kill the Narset, but if they do, that takes their whole turn. There's a Liliana's Triumph and another Kaya's Wrath. I want the Kaya's Wrath a lot. At the same time, I don't want to expose it because then the opponent will just play around it and keep beating me up with the little critter. So I'm going to take the Triumph instead. It sucks to put that Kaya's Wrath on the bottom. Sucks quite a bit. So I think the opponent's going to pump and attack down the Narset. But she did her job. She got me another card. She absorbed a hit. So now if I give the opponent the opportunity and they know about this Liliana's Triumph, I think they'll play out a Ferox and a Knight, which lets me Kaya's Wrath, and then I still have the Triumph to hit the last one. So let's play Teferi. Let's pick up the Knight of the Ebon Legion. Thought Erasure. Remember not to Thought Erasure the Nullhide Ferox, CGB. Don't do it. Don't do it. Here they come. Raw. Alright. Plus here.
I've got it.
Let's see. Black, blue, and then there's black, black, white, white. Wow, we drew the untapped land so we can really do it all. Watch this. Never mind. I'm probably picking the Ferox. Yep. And we'll keep the Disfigure to take on the Pelt Collector. Oh my gosh. They're just now they now they are just embracing it. They're embracing the pain. Yeah, wasn't an oops. I certainly could have emoted the oops to try to make them think I just messed up. But nah, 'twas all set up for the great wrath of Kaya. It's time for a spoiler break. This is Spectre and the Thief of the Night. That is not going to be the name of the card, I'm sure. Right now it's only spoiled in a different language, Japanese, I believe. So, with that in mind, let's read this translated version. Sorcery, hybrid, blue-black. So that's something. Uncommon, target opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a non-land card in that player's hand or graveyard, and exile it. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast the spell. So, definitely expensive for a card that does not affect the board, making this a very niche card. But I could see it being a one-of, and that's because, obviously, Thought Erasure is a huge card in the mirror, but this doesn't just hit the opponent's hand. The fact that you can choose a card in the graveyard is a big deal, because if you were limited to the hand and we got into a top deck war, this card would be terrible if you cast it and the opponent revealed a land. The feels bads would be astronomical. But instead you can go into the graveyard and at worst case grab something out of the graveyard. If you take a card from the opponent's hand, that's one less resource they have, one more that you have. It is a 2-for-1. And it can be better than that if you take something like a Narset from your opponent and then the opponent has to deal with the Narset. but that ability to hit the graveyard also always makes sure that you have a worst case scenario. I could see this being a sneaky win con for control decks. This is also a sorcery in the Teferi world. So in Esper, you can cast this in the draw step, take the card the opponent draws, and use it against them. That's so rude. I will probably try this as a one of. The fact that's 4 mana, it just makes it so prohibitively expensive. You can't fall too far behind on the board. But in the late game, this is a pretty powerful 2-for-1 effect, potentially, that at worst is whatever the opponent's best card is. So I like it, and I can't wait to try it out. Here we've got Teferi, Narset, 2 Lilianas, which is not ideal. But when we get to 6 mana, it can be very strong, so I'll keep it. And the Narset sleeves, the Dismal Backwater, you know we're in the mirror. And we don't have Thought Erasure, but man, when the opponent sees this hand. What do you pick? What do you pick? I bet they pick Teferi. I'm gonna go out on a limb that Teferi is the most hated card in the world. Oh, a Narset. Okay. Keeps on top. It's always second Thought Erasure. Just remember that, guys. Guys and gals. It's always another Thought Erasure. No! Not this time. Stop listening to CGB. He doesn't know what he's doing. Well, I could get the Narset on the field. Here's the thing. They know about 1 Teferi. They don't know I drew 2 more. If they play counter spells, they'll most certainly fire them off. And if they don't, we can keep trying to hit our land drops.
Oh, I've done the hero
Nice. Yeah, we gotta hit those lands. All the way to the top. Narset shows up to make my Teferi life worse. Narset finding Narset. Get comfortable, everyone. Alright. Here's my Narset, then. We're looking for our Elder spells. I love Thought Erasure, and I love Oath of Kaya. Without Oath of Kaya, that Narset's going to keep my Teferis turned off for the foreseeable future. But another Bolas's Citadel is very strong, too. I mean, it's quite possible I should just be taking the most powerful cards over and over and over and not worry about my opponent's hand. But their opponent's hand could certainly have Command the Dreadhorde, something that's very hard for me to beat. But I'm going with the Citadel. Let's go to the top rope. And another land on top, sure. It makes for a very pedestrian next turn, most likely. Not doing much. But we're hitting our lands, and we're making power plays. Sky Dancer, huh? Alright. Nice, beautiful, full art. There's the Elder spell out of the opponent. Could they have... They could have ultimated this. Right? Totally could have ultimated that. Weird. Now remember, Narset's on the board. There's nothing to be gained by drawing a card, so let's plus.
Let's try this.
And we'll see if the opponent can find Thought Erasure in time to stop the Citadel. In which case, they still have to fight Liliana. Yeah, of course. My opponents do not whiff. They are strong. Keeps on top. Seems good. Sure. I'm ready to respect you. Respecting whamming is what I do.
I've got time.
I am the master here.
Here's a zombie. Let's get this party going. We have to get through to the opponent somehow. Enter the God Eternals is not bad. I do get to draw a card from it, since I haven't drawn a card on my opponent's turn yet. Opponent is pushing for this ultimate, which is strong. You can draw a bunch of cards, but it does cost you mana, and our opponent isn't hitting all their land drops. Ooh, Oath. Oath can save me here. Can I Oath, take out the Narset, bounce my Oath, play the Oath, tag the Moo? Yes, I can. The problem with that line, it doesn't deal with the zombie. So what does? Is there a way to kill the zombie along the way? I could ignore the Narset, tag the Moo, bounce the zombie, not draw a card. Sounds horrible. I could just put the zombie token in the way and let the opponent hit the Liliana once. I have a backup, but we can't rely on it forever. Maybe I just let the opponent have this ultimate. Forget it, you know? It does cost them mana. They draw a bunch of cards, but it doesn't work against Narset very well if I find another one of those. I think it's okay. I mean, I haven't faced a Moo ultimate. Maybe I'm underestimating. Yeah, it's possible I'm severely underestimating this card, but really it doesn't frighten me. Plus the opponent had the line to go for it earlier and didn't. It's possible they didn't see the line. Maybe it's just not that good. I mean, do you want to take 2 lands off the board to draw cards when you're already pretty far behind? Here we go. Let the party begin. Our opponent has a Liliana of their own. That is not a bad thing to see. We're definitely going to be able to tag it down. We can bounce a zombie, draw a card, and threaten the ultimate with our Liliana Dreadhorde General. This doesn't trigger our opponent's Liliana to draw. Nice. Just need a turn now. May as well knock this down a peg.
Now, don't be pushy.
And with a Thought Erasure lined up, we should be able to get this turn. Our opponent has a Narset, so they can dig deeper in the deck, but let's see what happens. Oh, Thought Erasure, you're such a beast. And we see a negate that's no good against the Teferi. A Dispersal can bounce the Liliana, which, that's frustrating. Might be what the opponent has to do here, too. Narset digs. Digs for the Elder Spell, I guess, is specifically what is needed with Vraska's Contempt out of the format, so I think I take this away. If the opponent finds another one with Narset, they won't have enough mana to use it. Let's go. They're going to have to find another Elder Spell, and I don't know how many they run in their deck. I run 2. I run 3 in my Dimir deck. But let's put it on them to find exactly that with the Narset. It would be brutal, too. But the opponent leads with the Liliana. That tells me they, well, maybe just not thinking about drawing the Elder Spell, because if they found an Elder Spell, they could ultimate their Liliana, which is very much like game. Very much like game. In the tank, what's it going to be? Mobilized District comes down. So that was the first draw off the island. Opponent possibly debating what could they dig for. Here's Ritual of Soot. Draws a card with Liliana. Elder Spell's now off the table. Never mind. It's on my table. And this one's gonna sting a bit. So, I have another Liliana to play, but I can also Elder Spell this and keep my Liliana on the board, which is just fine. Of course, is there anything that counters an activate ability? Not while Teferi's on the field, so let's not overthink it or anything.
I am exhausted.
Alright, let's see if our opponent wants to stick around long enough to choose which land they'd like to keep. What a cool sound effect. I've never actually seen this ultimate occur. Every opponent I've ever had a scoop to it.
No, I am not making this up as I go.
Alright, pass it over, draw, erase more thoughts. I never feel too bad these days when I draw my thought erasures later in the game than my opponents. It's okay. Let's take another Discovery Dispersal. Keep the opponent from digging. Yeah, they're gonna fight it out. We see a Legion's End that can battle some zombie tokens, but I have a Disfigure, which I can use in response to save a zombie token if I have an army to protect. Another Oath of Kaya. That's a decent enough card. I don't need to cast anything here at instance at sorcery speed, so I'll just bounce this, draw this, get deeper, work on blasting the opponent down now. Alright, next. Drawing off those islands. Playing the black mana. What comes next? Liliana's Triumph can be used to make the opponent discard a card while we control Liliana Planeswalker.
Good health is easy to find in war.
Unfortunately for us, they have a lot of discardable cards. Alright, rebuilding just fine. The emblem is certainly helping here, and there is an Elder Spell. In response, I could make them discard. What would they discard? Probably Ritual of Soot or Enter the God Eternals, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Just get it out of the opponent's hand. They did have another Elder Spell in their deck.
I do love a good death.
So Negate is open now.
Time will tell.
We're gonna have to work on that. An Elder Spell of my own. Can the opponent beat me after a Liliana Ultimate? That's my question now. Still a lot of cards in the deck. They've used Narset a lot, so they might have run through a lot of the win cons and a lot of their good cards. We'll see. Let's go ahead and fire off a Disfigure to keep the Legion's End from killing two things. Our opponent still has this Negate open. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 1 mana short. Oh man. Alright. Well, let's feed you to the wolves. That something's got to get the Negate. Might as well be you, and it at least takes our opponent off of drawing some extra cards here. We need to dodge Thought Erasure for a turn. Our opponent's already cast a few, but you will draw them all. You will draw them all. Drawn from Dreams, but Thought Erasure is not on the table here. Perhaps they're grabbing another Negate if they run that. This looks like a 2 Negate list. I've seen MPL style lists elsewhere. Let's test it. No! Had a bad feeling, but that's the way it goes. Down to 10. There's the Thought Erasure. That's why we jam the cards, by the way. If you're thinking, why are you playing into obvious counter magic? Thought Erasure is going to get you. That's why. 25 cards, mill me. Nothing good, but there is a 4/4 over there now. We'll go empty. Last Thought Erasure is still hanging out. 25 to 20. Don't think I'm gonna win it. I think that the opponent is going to overcome the Liliana Ultimate pretty handily. We've lost our Haymakers. The 2 Elder Spells are gone, the 2 Lilianas are gone, and the 2 Citadels are gone. So a well-played Demirless definitely got the better of us. Time Raveler, where have you been all my life? So how many Oath of Kayas are left? 1. There's 1 here. Come on, scroll, baby. Is that it? So there's still 2 more Oaths? How about Teferis? I think all the other Teferis are gone. But I think the play I've got to go for is Oath, 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 and hope the opponent can't gain life. Kind of needed to top deck it right there. With 18 lands left, it's looking grim. Plus, the opponent has a target if they have more Enter the God Eternals. They can target their own creature to gain the life.
Focus and thoughtfulness before action.
17, 18. Third negate. Main decking a lot of negate in this format. Interesting. Takes the opponent to 4.
It's only a matter of time.
That's the way it feels, Teferi. That's the way it feels. $35-4, and I don't feel like I can possibly win this game.
Just the trick for this.
Yeah, I felt I was ahead at a few points. Maybe we can look back and point out exactly where I messed up. The opponent having the right answers for my Citadel at each phase was certainly painful to deal with. And giving the opponent the emblem, you could certainly say that was a mistake if you like.
Challenge a raging river.
I'm certainly regretting it now. Alright, got the negate. 12 cards in the deck, 16 over here. We're not going to deck in time with the Mobilized District, the Cavalier Gales, and the God Eternal Kefnet. We've got to draw into Oathakaya, right, starting right here. I guess we could throw in a Wrath. If we throw in a Kaya's Wrath, that wouldn't be the worst. Nope, that got me. That will do it. No more win cons left in the deck. Only 2 Oath of Kayas won't get me there. Does the opponent run 4 negates?
I have practiced against many foes alike. Keep an open mind.
Okay, well maybe the opponent attacks the Narset. Maybe. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, plus 5, plus... It's not enough to be lethal. If the opponent attacks the Narset, they go to 7. That still won't do it. But maybe I can hit a Wrath. Alright. Uno.
Quell your temper.
Really? There's still a Mobilized District to deal with. The opponent gets to put both of those into the deck, which is pretty frustrating when they're low library count. But can we hit another?
And prepare.
If we show our opponent the Liliana's Triumph, they will not activate the Mobilized District. They can also minus the Mu to make a 4/4. Whereas if I take the Oath of Kaya, point it at face, I can't win that way. I have to deck my opponent, which I can't do because they have the cards that shuffle back into the library. All right, I think I've explored this from every possible angle. I'm not going to win this game, so I'm going to concede it. And I don't think I think I've explained why in enough ways. So away we go. I hope you enjoyed these ranked games with Esper Control. I treaded a lot of water, games took quite a while, and I'm still kind of figuring out where Esper fits in the format. There's a lot of control mirrors, and you may have noticed that we adjusted some numbers as we went and tried some different things. I am all about Command the Dreadhorde and more Lilianas. I am way off of Bolas's Citadel, and I'm very much into the Elder Spell. So if you're out there playing black, you probably need to be running some Elder Spells. But I also want to look into more aggro and more ramp options to just go over the top or go under the control decks. I think the control decks are in a rough spot where they need everything to go well, including their mana. So be careful when you run them. Thank you for watching this video. As always, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.